If Oakmont is known for anything, it is known for being one of the toughest tests in major championship golf. Welcome to Oakmont Country Club, home of the 125th United States Open Championship. Footprints of Bobby Jones, Walter Hagen, Ben Hogan, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer are all on this floor. And that's exactly what Henry Phones wanted when he designed this golf course back in the fall of 1903 and into 1904. Was it to be a true Darwinian test, a test of man versus golf course. A place where if you didn't hit the perfect shot, every shot, you were going to be punished for it. All of our champions become honorary members here, and if you look here, you can see that this is Jack Nicklaus's locker, the 1962 US Open champion here at Oakmont. Club saying around here is a shot misplayed, is a shot irrevocably lost. Morning. How are you? Good. Morning.
Okay.
Howdy.
Hello, Dave. 2 sandwiches with no meat.
Let me check and make sure everybody's decent. Welcome to the locker room here at Oakmont Country Club. It's truly one of the most special parts of the clubhouse. The locker room dates back to the founding of the club in the building of the clubhouse in 1904. And each of the lockers is constructed in this manner, wooded with a metal lattice. Every member has a locker. And as we open it up here, one of the really neat features of all of these lockers, and whether they're the original lockers from 1904 all the way up to the ones they still construct today when they expand, is all of them feature this little lockbox inside. And these lock boxes were installed in 1920 to account for prohibition. That way, all the players, all the members would still have booze for their post-round events. All the new lockers that have been constructed since Prohibition are built with that same little lockbox. And, you know, one of the really neat things about the locker room here is all of our champions become honorary members here. And if you look here, you can see that this is Jack Nicklaus's locker, the 1962 US Open champion here at Oakmont. Another one of the really amazing features when it comes to the locker rooms here are the benches. The benches are original, dating back to 1904. And if you look very closely, you can see all of these little black pock marks in the wood. And that's 120 years of metal spikes leaving their footprints in this wood. So everybody from Bobby Jones to Ben Hogan, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, Tiger Woods, and Phil Mickelson have changed their shoes on these benches, which is just a truly amazing part of our history. Yeah, this, you just want to get a shot of this, huh? Jack's, Johnny's is pretty famous. So one of the unique things here at Oakmont is the SWAT, S-W-A-T. It doesn't stand for anything except for literally the word SWAT, but it's the members game that they play here a couple days a week on every holiday. It's a betting game, and this room here in the men's locker room is their sanctuary. They come in here before their round to formulate the teams. A SWAT team usually consists of 4 players, an A, B, C, and D player, determined by your handicap. After they go out and play, they come back into this room, they tabulate the scores, they exchange the money from the betting that day, and then they sit here and have a beer and reminisce about their round. It's truly one of the most unique rooms in the clubhouse and one of the most unique rooms in golf. And we have the 1973 book in there, so right before the Open, Arnold Palmer and Julius Burroughs played in it, so we have it open to that page.
That's awesome.
And then those guys were the 2 of the 54-hole leaders, so it was pretty cool. Thank you. Yeah. So this is one of the truly special displays here at Oakmont is this trophy case here, which we refer to as the bas-relief trophy case. So a couple of our members were involved with the Pittsburgh Penguins for a number of years, and after a trip to Montreal and the Bell Center, they saw how the Montreal Canadiens displayed their Stanley Cups. And the Canadiens, having won the most Stanley Cups in NHL history, and Oakmont having hosted the most US Opens in history, they came up with this awesome idea to have the US Open trophy on display, one for each of our then 9, now 10 US Open championships. Now, the issue is at the time, the USGA bylaws stated you're only allowed one 90% replica of the trophy on display, but our members found a loophole and created the half trophies. So we have a half trophy of the US Open for each of our 10 US Opens now to date, starting in 1927 with Tommy Armour, going all the way to 2025. Trophies are engraved with the year, the champion, and their total score. So we'll be adding a new name here in just a couple of weeks to the 2025 trophy, and we're ready for our next 3 Opens after that. We have the 3 replicas ready to go. So another one of the great rooms here at Oakmont is this dining room here, which we call the Champions Grill. On the wall behind us, there is a picture of each of Oakmont's 20 national champions, hence the name. But one of the great features of this room is this hardwood floor, which is original, dating back to 1904. And very much like the benches in the locker room, you could see all those little black pock marks from 100 years of metal spikes. So the footprints of Bobby Jones, Walter Hagen, Ben Hogan, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer are all on this floor, which is truly, truly amazing. And the other big highlight of this room is this bar, which we call Froggy's Bar. So native Pittsburghers might recognize it. It was once housed in a bar downtown called Froggy's. And when Froggy's closed shop about 20 years ago, a couple of our members bought this bar and brought it to the club when this room was being redone. And the reason being was it dated to 1903, the same year the club was founded. So once Froggy's closed down, his bar has been a key part of the Oakmont dining experience ever since. And if you look very closely on the mirrors behind the bar, you can still see some of the specials, the outlines of the specials from years and years of drinks down at Froggy's. And then the big highlight for club history is this amazing photo right here of Bobby Jones putting on the 9th green during the 1927 US Open. And the gentleman tending the flag for him was then USGA President W.C. Phones Jr., who is the son of Oakmont founder Henry Phones. So the history of Oakmont begins with this gentleman right here, Henry C. Phones. Henry was born in Pittsburgh in 1856, and just like the majority of the wealthy elite during the Gilded Age of Pittsburgh, Henry Phones made his fortunes in iron and steel. In fact, he owned a company called the Cary Furnace Company, which was one of the most profitable blast furnaces of Western Pennsylvania. So profitable that in 1898 he sold it to Andrew Carnegie, and it was incorporated into Carnegie Steel. 3 years later, it was purchased by J.P. Morgan, and U.S. Steel was created. So when Henry sold the Cary Furnace in 1898, he became an incredibly wealthy man at a relatively young age. He was in his mid-40s, and as I like to tell the tale, Oakmont was founded with what we call here the Great Misdiagnosis. So around 1898, 1900, in that time area, Henry Phones was a very big bicycle enthusiast. And one Sunday afternoon, he was welding a bicycle tire back together in his garage when he noticed he started to develop spots in his vision. And after consulting a doctor, the doctor diagnosed him with arteriosclerosis, which was essentially heart disease, and he was given about a year to 18 months to live. And this totally changed the course of golf history, because Henry at this point sells off a lot of his remaining business interests, and it's during this time where he thinks he's on death's door that he travels over to Great Britain and Scotland and plays all the historic courses, the Old Course, North Berwick, Prestwick, Musselburgh, and he really founds this love for the game of golf, particularly the architecture of golf in Great Britain. When he returns to the United States, he notices the spots in his vision are beginning to disappear, and after consulting a different doctor, he is diagnosed with welder's flash, and he would go on to live another 35 plus years. So what would have been the greatest malpractice suit in today's day and age led to Oakmont Country Club, because here's Henry Phones, mid-40s, incredibly wealthy after the sale of the Cary Furnace, with a new lease on life and a newfound adoration for the game of golf. And just a couple years after that misdiagnosis, he founded this 191-acre club right here in Oakmont, now known as Oakmont Country Club. It was officially founded in June of 1903, and that fall, Henry Phones, a team of 150 men and 24 horses and mules, set out to hand dig and design this golf course. And over the course of the fall of 1903 and into the spring of 1904, Henry and that team laid out arguably one of the greatest tests in major championship golf. It opened for play on October 1st, 1904. It played at 6,406 yards and a par of 80. Most people today would still say it probably should be a par 80. Now, if Henry Phones is the reason we're here today, it is his son, W.C. Phones Jr., who really puts Oakmont on the national map. While Henry designs the golf course, it is W.C. that not only makes it the most challenging test in major championship golf, but elevates it to the status that it would eventually host national championships. W.C. Phones Jr. is Henry's son, though he is named after Henry's brother, William C. Phones. And like the rest of the family, W.C. Phones Jr. worked in the steel industry until he unfortunately suffered from heart issues that his father was misdiagnosed with. He retired from the steel industry around the age of 30 and devoted the rest of his life to golf. He played in 19 United States Amateur Championships, winning the 1910 U.S. Amateur at the Country Club in Brookline, Massachusetts. He would win 8 Western Pennsylvania Amateur titles, which was a record until just 2 years ago, 4 Pennsylvania Amateur titles, and 2 Western Pennsylvania Open Championships. When he wasn't on the golf course, he was one of the leading pioneers in golf in the United States Golf Association. He served on the executive committee for many years. He eventually became USGA president in 1924 and 1925, and in 1926 and 27, he served as the United States Golf Association's president, overseeing the first United States Open here at Oakmont in 1927. Welcome to History Hall. So this hallway is dedicated to the now 10 United States Open Championships here at Oakmont. This hallway houses 10 display cases, 1 for each US Open. The display cases feature artifacts from the event and the champion, as well as photographs from each of those tournaments. And the one right in front of us here is the case for the 1927 US Open, our very first US Open championship in our history. The event was won by Scotsman Tommy Armour in a playoff over Harry Cooper, featured in that photo there to the left. At that point, Tommy Armour was a relatively new professional. He had turned pro just 3 years earlier, and this was his first major championship victory. He would go on to win 2 more. He would win the PGA Championship in 1930 and the Open Championship in 1931, becoming the first of 4 Oakmont champions to win both here and at Carnoustie over in Scotland. 2 of the best stories from the 1927 US Open come from fellows that finished a little further down the leaderboard. The first was Bobby Jones. Bobby Jones came in as the reigning US Open and British Open champion and was expected to win without too much difficulty after his runner-up and win here in the US Amateurs in 1919 and 1925. And as it turned out, Bobby Jones would have his worst career finish in a US Open here in 1927. He would finish in a tie for 11th. It is the only time in his 13 career starts that he finished outside of the top 10, and it is the only time from 1923 till 1930 that he didn't either win the championship or finish runner-up. The other great story from 1927 comes from a gentleman named Johnny Farrell. And Johnny Farrell won the biggest cash prize of the week in 1927, about $250 more than Tommy Armour did for winning the championship. And Johnny Farrell won that $1,000 cash prize by being the best dressed golfer at the 1927 United States Open. With the US Open about to tee off here at Oakmont for the 10th time, we are prepared with our 10th case here in History Hall for our eventual 2025 US Open champion. And one of the things you'll notice about the items in this display case, which really at this point is memorabilia that you can purchase either in the pro shop or in the merchandise pavilion the week of the championship, is the Squirrel logo that's prominently featured on every one of the items. And the Squirrel logo has been synonymous with Oakmont since the 1962 US Open when it made its first appearance. And most people always ask 2 questions when it comes to the squirrels. 1, why a squirrel? And 2, what's the squirrel's name? Well, the squirrel dates back to the 60s, and at that point, squirrels were much more prevalent on the golf course because, again, after the tree planting program in the 50s and for the next 40 years, the golf course was lined with trees, thus it was lined with squirrels. So the squirrel kind of became synonymous with Oakmont. Now with the trees gone, squirrels are a rare sight here, but it is such an iconic logo that we continue to use it to this day. And recent editions of the squirrel logo have had them sitting in fescue grass instead of on a tree. The other big question has always been, what is the name of the squirrel? The squirrel has no official name. And I feel like at some point it should be changed, but I'm so thrilled to see the Squirrel logo for 2025. It kind of returns to the roots of the original, more cartoonish Squirrel that debuted in 1962. And it is one of the best logos in all of golf and one of the best logos for the US Open. Every time. His driver, Ernie's putter, Nelson's wedge, and Johnny's putter are the ones from that championship. So one of the really unique features of the Oakmont golf course, besides the church pews and some of the other treacherous ditches and bunkers that are on the golf course, is the 9th green behind me here. And what makes it so special is it doubles as both the 9th green and the practice putting green. So during the US Open Championship, you'll see this portion of the green very busy leading up to a player's round. They'll be out here with a couple balls practicing on the top portion of it. Meanwhile, in the background, you'll see players playing into the front portion of that green during the championship play. And what's really fun is you'll see a spray painted line across the middle of the green. That way the players that are practicing and warming up know they are not to go below that line or they will be disqualified. Meanwhile, if a player hits to the upper portion of this green, they'll still have to putt down into the lower half of the 9th green to complete the hole, making it truly one of the most difficult greens on the golf course. And you know, when it comes to Oakmont, we are known for our greens. We are known for their difficulty, their undulations, and their speed. In fact, Arnold Palmer once said, you can hit all 72 greens in regulation at Oakmont and still not come close to winning a US Open. And he is incredibly right. I mean, these greens are the best in championship golf. They run fast, they run true. All the undulations make them incredibly difficult to read and judge the right speed and the right line. And ultimately, the player that putts the best during the championship week tends to raise the trophy on Sunday night. Just outside the 18th hole here at Oakmont, where in just a couple days, a champion will be crowned here on this fabled green. It has made or broke several champions and hopefuls over the years. Tommy Armour made a birdie putt to make it into a playoff in 1927 here. Arnold Palmer and Tiger Woods both missed putts that would have got them either the outright championship or a spot in a playoff. But at the end of the day, come Sunday, another US Open champion will raise the trophy on this green.